Fresh crack of the Muscle Nation tin. What's up, tackles and tinnies? We're back to the mini series today, and obviously got the Akuba on today, which means one thing: we are doing the North Queensland Cowboys. I have an affinity for the Cowboys. Jonathan Thurston is one of my favourite players of all time. Absolute gun, and I think they're sort of still living in his shadow, which has sort of reflected their past couple of years in being a little bit inconsistent. So I think this part of the mini series is going to be really interesting to talk about. But let's get straight into how they performed in 2025. Very frustrating, very similar to the Dragons preview that we talked about a couple episodes ago. But they finished 12th on the ladder. So they had 9 wins, 14 losses with a negative 146 point differentiation. They managed to score a few points. They're about middle pack with 538 plus. But their big issue was negative 684 points conceded, which was the second worst in the comp. And I hate to say it, my beloved Gold Coast Titans were number one. But you get, again, defense wins championships, and it's quite obvious that negative 684, just not good enough. But yeah, they got 25 competition points, and they're actually only really a few wins away from making the top 8. So I'm on the ladder right now. To make the top 8, you have to get 32 points. So again, a couple of those close games make a really big difference in a very congested league. Context for their season, just wishy-washy, defense. Effort, I think, at defense as well. Once they conceded points, they sort of dropped their head, and that's when the points started to flurry. But for such a good roster, it was extremely frustrating to watch them play in 2025. Before we get into the full preview, I want to hear from you guys in the comments and suggest to me what they could have done differently in order to fix their defense in 2025. Was it a coaching thing? Was it a culture thing? Was it a roster thing? Let me know in the comments. Why were they so bad defensively? And so bad. So bad. But how it actually went, so their attack, again, in patches, very, very good. They changed their combinations here and there. Reece Robson was a mainstay at hooker. Dearden at the 5'8" position, then shifted to halfback, and then back to 5'8", then back to halfback. But I thought, obviously, overall, Tommy Dearden, by far their best player. He's their emotional leader. He tries so bloody hard in everything that he does, and I think that reflected obviously well in the Queensland Origin camp when he replaced DCE in Game 2. But doesn't matter if it's Queensland or he's playing for the North Queensland Cowboys. I think Tommy Dearden by far was their best player. Drinkwater. Super coach mainstay for many people. Super consistent in terms of scores. But again, your fullback is the orchestrator of your defense. And with them conceding the second most points at 684 or negative 684, is Scotty Drinkwater the best fit at fullback? Very good in attack, obviously. Is he a good defensive fullback? I guess he has a lot to prove in 2026. I want to hear from you guys. Is Drinkwater defense up to scratch? Is communication good enough at the back? Or is it just more of a whole team thing? Again, let me know. I thought Nanai, again, in patch was very good. He was a Queensland mainstay coming off the bench. Great attacking upside, still so young, still in his early 20s. I think he's like 22 years old. Nanai, I thought he was good. Probably didn't get enough attacking ball comparatively to the year prior. But again, I think with a bit more consistency in the halves, instead of Jake Clifford, Purdue, Dearden, all swapping around, I think, this offseason is going to tell a lot for Nanai. Big 2026 coming for him. And young gun, Jackson Purdue, I thought he was fantastic. Sort of broke out of nowhere. He's paper thin in terms of his build and stature, but overall, I thought he was dynamic in attack. Got shifted between center and 5'8". I'd love to see him get a full season in the halves, which is actually currently true. So he's actually been training at halfback, which I really, really like. You just got to give this man the ball. Let him run. Let him and Tommy Dearden pretty much do what they sort of did with Queensland Origin with Munster and Dearden. Purdue and Dearden could do something very similar for the Cowboys. Scotty Drinkwater plays like a halfback, sort of like Kalen Ponga. So, you can Purdue and Dearden can just run the ball. But getting back to Purdue as a whole, great runner of the ball, extremely fast, still growing into his body, which obviously will help his defense. And again, a full season in a specific position, I think is going to help him a lot. Overall, I think for those guys, more moments than consistency. Is that a system thing? Is that a coaching thing? Is that a cultural thing? I think it's everything combined, personally. Again, when you have the second worst defense in the league, that comes down to effort. And when the chips jump down, how can you rebound from that? That's a really big thing. As I just mentioned, defense was their biggest letdown. Edge cohesion, just effort, energy. Again, they look like they want to score every single time off every single play. But when the chips went down, when teams started scoring them, they dropped their heads, even with a stacked roster, which would be very interesting to see now, not in a top 17. I guess we can now talk about a top 19 with the new interchange rules, which I'll get to later on the podcast. So obviously they lost Chad Townsend. He was we talked about in the Titans chat with Sam about having experienced halves. Yes, Chad Townsend is not what he was 5-6 years ago, but he was that older head. He was that steady hand for guys like Tommy Dearden and Drinky. It'll be interesting to see if Purdue and Dearden, with a full off-season together, can sort of emulate Chad Townsend in the way he was orchestrating the game, even in his advanced stage of his career. Obviously, he went to the Roosters later on. Again, being in North Queensland, the travel for them is obviously going to be logistically hard. And it's obviously going to be, wear and tear, recovery, getting up for games. If I'm going from North Queensland to Gold Coast, then back to North Queensland to New Zealand, and then maybe New Zealand to Melbourne. Again, logistics and travel is always going to be hard for a team like the Cowboys. So again, recovery, inconsistent energy hasn't been a problem in the past. So again, that makes me come back to that same focal point of effort and culture, and that comes down to management and leadership. What I want to talk about now is recruitment and roster movement that 2025 had. Okay, so Carl Lawton, he came from Manly. He's like a 9, bit of a 13, bit of utility off the bench, played some edge as well. He was good in patches, but not great. You had Kai O'Donnell, pretty mid, to be honest. Jackson Paulo, utility outside back, came from Manly. Again, still very young, developing into his body. Could get a smoky bench spot on the top 19, but we'll wait and see for that one. John Bateman from the West Tigers. He's an edge middle, ball playing forward. Maybe a little bit past his best, maybe lost a step or two, but I think he brought intangibles to the game, particularly when Lukey went down. Okay, he got that starting second row spot alongside Nanai. I don't think John Bateman should be starting in 2026, but I think he still has value to a team like the Cowboys. And guys who went out of their team, I love Fene Fuiaki. He went to the Finns, and I thought he was fantastic. Fene Fuiaki, great ball runner, hits hard, and in turn, Billy Slater noticed that, and he gave him a Queensland Origin camp invite. So it's going to be great for his confidence, but again, irrelevant for the Cowboys. Chad Townsend, obviously, we mentioned before, he went to the Roosters, didn't do too much there, but again, it's more so the culture, the mentoring that he provides. Jakey Granville was fantastic in that grand final for the Cowboys many years ago with JT and Prime Tamalolo. However, obviously retired. Kyle Felt, again, one of the best wingers, you could arguably say, of all time. Huge try-scoring feats, got that match winner or match-tying try in that grand final. He was obviously a big loss culturally. Valentine Holmes, what can we say about him? Obviously, we did our Dragons review. I gave him all the roses as well. Lost a goal kicker, lost to Origin centre / winger / fullback. Give him some early appeal. He can do it with the best of them in the league. Big loss, Valentine Holmes. They're probably the main guys that we should be talking about. But for 2026, okay, we have a 1-for-1 here. So they obviously gained Reid Marnie from the Bulldogs. He was definitely underutilized with Bailey Hayward sort of taking his spot. Got out of favour, lost minutes significantly. I think he's really due for a bounce back year and a fresh light to this team, which obviously then replaces Reece Robson, who's an Origin quality hooker, very strong in defence, good service out of dummy half, almost a 1-for-1. Obviously, I probably could argue Reece Robson's better. But yeah, much of a muchness in terms of 1-for-1, and you're saving a little bit of money with Reid Marnie in the Salary Cup era. That's so important. You got some younger fellas like Ethan King and James E. Walsh, outside backs / utility halves. Haven't heard too much about them personally, but I'm sure they're going to do wonders in their developmental years. And Matthew Lodge. Okay, he's got that dog. He's got that anger. He's got a bit of vomit on the sideline at the Titans game. I remember that one. But yeah, he's good experience for a pretty... Yeah, they've got some really young guys in their forward pack and obviously some senior players, but I think a bit more aggression in this forward pack would go a long way. Does he make the top 19? Time will tell. As I mentioned before, in regards to Robson leaving, he's gone to the Roosters. Great get for them. The salary cap sombrero, I'm pretty much wearing one right now. Yeah, but he's going to be a great get for them and a big loss, I think, for the Cowboys. But we'll see how Reid Marnie goes. Tom Duffy. So he started actually at halfback at the start of the year, played like 2 or 3 games, and then pretty much got exiled from the team. He's gone to the Broncos. All reports said he was like a gun coming through, had heaps of potential, and you pretty much just threw him to the wolves, threw him in the deep end of the pool without much room for growth, without much room for error. If he had an error or two, confidence went down, head dropped. Yeah, not good for him. Good for the Broncos because obviously the Broncos lost Kobe Black. So they've got another young guy coming to fill that role. But yeah, Tom Duffy going to the Broncos. Jordan McLean, he's retired, veteran middle. So again, losing that experience. So I think a guy like Matty Lodge, he's going to be fantastic to replace a guy like him. Jamal Shibasaki, he's been released. Who knows? Gamut Shibasaki was actually up at the Cowboys at one stage of his career. Jamal obviously didn't get that same resurgence to his career. So yeah, he's been released. And then Carl Lawton, who we just spoke about previously with that utility factor they provided, also got released. That's all right. Contracted core, I think it's a big one to look at as well. Their main guys are actually locked in. Okay, their main guys locked in. So Tommy Dearden, Drinkwater, Nanai, Lukey, who's coming back from an ACL injury, but very, very good. Arguably as good as Nanai on his day. Ruben Cotter, absolute dog. Tamalolo, even at his advanced age, still has a little bit of upside when used correctly. Zach Labert and Vailea, not Vailea. Yeah, both those guys will probably be starting in the centres. So again, a bit of consistency and cohesion moving forward in the outside backs. But again, we got guys like Jackson Purdue coming off contract in the coming years. Need to lock him in. He's a long-term cornerstone. He's a blue chip asset. These are the sort of things and guys that the Cowboys need to lock down, especially being a Queensland boy as well. So 2025 over and underperformers. So who I think exceeded expectations, Tommy Dearden. Again, I mentioned him before. Got the call up in Game 2 for Queensland Origin, and he was by far their best player, or you can almost argue in Game 3 as well. He's the heart and soul of the team. When they've got their their back against the wall, he's the guy who digs them out. Fantastic running game. His kicking game's improving. His playmaking's improving. He's only going to get better. He's a part of that leadership group. All the roses for Tommy Dearden. Ruben Cotter in a similar ilk in regards to the leadership, the pedigree, the origin qualities that he comes out. I love Ruben Cotter. I love the work rate that he has. That he's a tackling bot. Yeah, huge engine, huge motor. Yeah, he's the middle glue. He's their man in the front row / lock position. Got Jeremiah Nanai, still an elite try scoring prospect. Awesome under the high ball. Only growing into his body, gaining experience, gaining confidence. Obviously, more time with the Origin boys. I think he's going to be due for a breakout year. Consistency for Jeremiah Nanai is probably the key for him. What do you guys think about Nanai? Is he due for a breakout again in 2026? Or are we going to see more of that patchy form and inconsistencies in his game? Jackson Purdue, we've obviously talked about a guy who sort of popped out of nowhere. Huge upside. He's shifted between center and 5'8". I like him more on the ball. And again, as I mentioned earlier, he's been training at halfback. The more ball he gets, the better the team will go, in my opinion. Again, he's still not very big in terms of his body, in terms of his stature. However, he's a gun. He is a gun. And a couple more off seasons, who knows, 2026 could be his year, could be smoky for Origin, but time will tell. Who disappointed? Now, we could obviously look at guys in key positions, and I think Scotty Drinkwater is probably the one I want to talk about the most. On decent coin, in a pivotal position, and again, defense wins championships, and obviously there's 16 other guys in the team. There's 12 other players on the field. He has so much responsibility in regards to the attack, okay? But again, they're not a top 6 attacking team, so again, that could be arguable as well. But defense, he's the orchestrator out the back. He's the guy telling everyone where to go. He's the one making the one-on-one tackles. I think he's pretty good at that overall. And you can't obviously blame one guy, but in a pivotal position where a lot of these elite teams have those gun fullbacks, is Scott Drinkwater in that same ilk? In Supercoach, he is. He's one of the best fullbacks in Supercoach. But does that translate to what we have in real life? I want to know from you guys, did Scott Drinkwater disappoint for 2025? Am I being too harsh? What I'm saying is fair because of what he's done in the past, because the pedigree that he's shown? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Love to debate that. But again, I'm hoping all the best for him. He's a gun in his own right. And again, probably edge defense overall. You're changing guys in the center wing position. You had plenty of injuries in their outside backs. You shifted Clifford and Purdue a couple of times. You shifted Dearden to halfback. Yeah, I think their edge defense overall, which obviously where the points were being scored, I think that said a lot about them. And again, probably their bench rotation overall probably lacked a bit of punch. Again, injuries didn't help that. Guys like Tomalolo getting past their prime. Yeah, that's probably some of the things that coach needs to work on for the off-season, for sure. Now, rookies and players to watch. I mentioned 2 boys, Ethan King, James Walsh. Ethan King's an outside back. Could be pushing for a position, particularly when Talangi, who's quite injury-prone, but obviously plays Origin. Robert Derby was inconsistent at the best of times. Braden Burns has had a lot of injuries with his hamstrings. Zachy Labar's coming back from an ACL. Villiers been injured a couple of times. Ethan King could then make that pounce in the outside backs and make it his own. But he also has Tommy Chester also around there as well. So we'll see about that one. James Walsh, young half/hooker, could be smoky for the 14 position. Potentially during Origin time when they lose so many guys, I'd like to see a guy like that get a crack. But if he's still developing his career, a guy in a pivotal position like that, I'd rather him play Queensland Cup. We'll talk about that probably later on in the podcast in regards to the 19. But yeah, we'll get through that later. Now, as we've done our couple of other top 7 teams, we've had to amend these obviously as well because now we've got 19 players. So I think the debate is you've only got 4 players that you can use out of the 6. Once you've used 4, the other 2 guys come as injury relief or HIA relief, like an 18th and 19th man. It'll be interesting how coaches use their bench. I've said to Chris, I've said to Jake in the past, you probably don't want to be, I'm just going to use like the Raiders, for example. I probably want to put a guy like Kobe Black or Ethan Sanders as the 18th or 19th man. Okay. These are guys who are young halves. I probably want them getting development in Q Cup rather than getting swamped onto the bench. And I think that comes similar to those other guys like King and James Walsh. You probably would rather guys who are a bit more established, maybe 3rd or 4th string, not the 5th string guy. Sorry, not the 3rd string guy on the bench. You probably want the 4th or 5th string guy. So the backup's backup. Probably makes more sense. And which, when I get to some of these positions who are fighting for it, it'll probably make a bit more sense when we get to the end of that. And I think some of you might agree. But again, I want to hear from you guys. Top 19 players, who would be on the bench and why? Have I missed a guy? Am I overreaching for some players? Let me know. But I think for fullback at this stage, pretty obvious, Scott Drinkwater. Okay, I love him there overall as a player. He's a great talent. Defense. I'm hoping that improves. I'm not blaming the guy. There's 12 other guys in the paddock. But yeah, number one, definitely. Goal kicker as well at this stage. On the wings, okay, Murray Taulagi, he's 100% a lock. I don't see him getting pipped at all. Origin gun, great finisher. He's got that swag. He's got that aura on him. Great confidence player. Great under the high ball. Yeah, he's a lock. He's a Queensland player as well. Now the other wing. Braden Burns and Robert Derby both split time there. Robert Derby physically has more gifts in regards to his height and leaping ability. But yeah, the high ball made a few crucial areas, made a few defensive lapses. If he can get that out of his game, I think he could be an absolute gun on the wing just due to his stature. Will Warbrick, Xavier Coates-esque. But yeah, time will tell how he can do that. But his main competition is Braden Burns. Braden Burns had a lot of injuries in regard to soft tissue, hamstring being probably the main one we could talk about. But when healthy, oh my God, Braden Burns. So good. So good. So fast, good in contact, good finisher, super reliable in defense, really good in contact and breaking tackles from the eye test at least. So out of Braden Burns and Robert Derby, I'm actually going to pick Braden Burns over him. I think there's a bit more consistency with Burns. Derby probably has a bit more upside. In the halves, okay, I got Tommy Dearden shifting from the halfback position back to 5'8". He's definitely a natural 5'8", particularly in clubland. He'll be their captain. He's their main guy they look for. He's their leader, okay? But now I've got Jackson Purdue at number 7. All reports are saying that he's been training there all off-season. I love it. Great with ball in hand, super fast, Jerome Hughes-esque in regards to running of the ball. Definitely not kicking the ball just yet, but a couple more off seasons, bit more repetition. Who knows? Jackson Purdue could light up the NRL in the coming years, maybe 2026. But yeah, Tommy Dearden, Purdue in the halves. Middle forward rotation. So this is where it gets a little bit spicy. So Jason Taumalolo is my first prop. He's getting paid $1 million. He's starting. I don't care what you guys say. He is starting. In recent years, he's played for Tonga. I thought he's done well in shorter stints. Okay, so less volume on the field, more exertion out there. So instead of playing him for 25 to 30 minutes straight, let's get him out there for 17 to 22 minutes straight. I want high impact, high effort, high running. Get him off the field. Lolo on his day is still devastating. The other front row position, you could go several positions here, or 7 people here. We could go a guy like Gritham Neame, Cohen Hess, Matty Lodge. We could go a guy like John Bateman potentially. But I've actually lent towards a more mobile guy in Sam McIntyre. I thought he was really good last year. I think getting the yin to the yang to Taumalolo complements it quite well. Bit more mobility, modern day front rower, Josh Curran-esque from the Bulldogs. I kind of like that. I kind of like that mobility. So McIntyre and Taumalolo, the yin to the yang, I think they complement each other quite well. And I think that also complements the edges as well in regards to the second rowers. So I've got Jeremiah Nanai and him and Lukey. I think they're locks. Lukey's obviously coming back from an ACL injury. I think it's his second one, actually, so poor guy. But when healthy, both Queensland representatives, in my eyes, could be the future Queensland second rowers. Very high attacking upside. Can they work on the defense? Can they stay on the park? That is the question. So young, so skillful, so athletic. I love my athletic players, and I think they will do wonders for the Cowboys this year. At number 9, obviously, we talked about before, but Reid Marnie's coming from the Bulldogs. He's got a lot to prove. Got a good kicking game out of dummy half, which I think will help Purdue and Dearden and Drinkwater. Good service, good running game. He's an absolute pest. He's the guy you want on your team, but you hate playing against him. I think that will help them. Okay, Matty Lodge will also help them in that regard as well. But he's going to give them a bit more NO when the chips are down, I think. Yeah, it's a lot to prove. Big year for Reid Marnie in my eyes. Ruben Cotter, co-captain. He's a Queensland mainstay. He's an Australian mainstay. He's a leader. He's got that dog in him. He's got that engine. Can shift between Front row, second row, lock, absolute gun. Love Cotter. Yeah, he's one of their main guys. Now off the bench, I've got number 14 as their main utility. I got Jake Clifford. Okay. He can play 6, 7, or 9. Okay. Again, we've got 6 guys on the bench now, so you got to keep that in mind, guys. But he's my utility. Can spell Dearden or Purdue or Marnie. But the good thing is, if an outside back goes down, obviously now with the rule changes, but Purdue could have shifted to the centers or the wing or fullback. But now that's going to change. Okay, it's going to change. But he's my half utility / hooker utility. Griffin Neame, okay, as we mentioned before, could get that starting prop position. He's a front rower for the New Zealand national team. Very good in his own regards. Bit of a plotter in terms of speed. I like a bit more athleticism, but he's just a big body. He'll be there. The next 2 guys who'll be fighting for a position, and I think it'll literally be out of these 3 guys. We'll put them as 3 guys here. Cohen Hess, Matt Lodge, and Harrison Edwards. I think those 3 guys are fighting for 2 spots. Okay. Cohen Hess and Matty Lodge are very similar in the way they play. I think Cohen Hess is a bit more dynamic and athletic. Matt Lodge probably provides a bit more aggro. Harrison Edwards probably has that, the youth behind him. He's got a bit more versatility. Can probably play on an edge if need be. Those 2 guys are probably fighting for jersey number 16, 17. I've also got John Bateman. He provides experience. Obviously, he's going to get demoted from the starting second row position, but he'll be a middle / second row utility. And again, he's got that leadership. He's got that experience. He'll be there somewhere on the bench in my eyes. And then in my final position at jersey 19, I've got Jackson Paulo. So he's an outside back utility. He can play center or wing. I think he's going to do. I think he's a perfect type of guy for this new rule change. He's established enough where he shouldn't be wasting energy in Q Cup, but I think he's just not in that top tier comparatively to the other guys I mentioned to get a starting spot. He's the perfect number 19 as an outside back utility. And again, you can shift some guys around the outside backs in the starting team. Now, what do you guys reckon of those ones? I'm pretty happy overall on how it's constructed. I'll quickly read them out again. Fullback Drinkwater. On the wings, I've got Talangi and Braden Burns. At centre, I've got Zach Labutt and Vilea. In the halves, I've got Tom Dearden and Jackson Purdue at halfback. I've got middle forwards, I've got Jason Tamalolo, Sam McIntyre, and Cotter at lock. And I've got Reid Marnie at hooker. And at second row, I've got Nanai and Lukey. Coming off the bench, I've got Jakey Clifford being that utility half / hooker. I've got Griffin Neame being one of the front rowers coming off the bench. I'm going to lean towards Cohen Hess over Matt Lodge at this stage. I think he has a bit more upside, but definitely Matt Lodge will be there and about. I think Harrison Edwards, bit more versatility in regards to the way he plays, gives another look, a bit more leg speed, Sam McIntyre-esque, where I think a bit more versatility there. John Bateman, similar in that regard, bit more leg speed, got that English pedigree, got that dog in him. Yeah, it'll either be John Bateman, Matty Lodge. Those 2 guys will obviously be fighting for a spot as well. And then that final position, I got Jackson Paulo. He'd be that outside back utility. Yeah, wing, center wing, or center and fullback. You can definitely all play there. But again, let me know, guys. How did I go? Have I missed anyone? Should a younger fella be pushing through? Am I capping for some of those guys? Do we like Purdue at halfback? Let me know in the comments. At this stage, I think Tommy Chester is probably the only smokey who could crack the 19. Injuries have taken a lot of his early part of his career, but he's a genuine chance to make the 19. He could be that outside back coverage. Again, wing, fullback, center. Could definitely take that Jackson Paulo position. Who you guys got? Would it be a Robert Derby? Would it be a Tommy Chester? Or would it be a Braden Burns? You let me know in the comments who you think. Now, the draw / strength of schedule for 2026. This is from Fox Sports. So the fixture difficulty is 13th. So one of the softer draws overall. Teams they play twice is the Roosters, Dolphins, Broncos, Raiders, Tigers, Titans, Seagulls, and Eels. I'd say out of those teams, the Cowboys should potentially win 2 games against the Tigers, Titans, Seagulls, and Eels. Okay, I've got high hopes for the Roosters, Dolphins, Broncos, and Raiders in 2026, but they could definitely steal one. Games versus top 8 teams who are from 2025, they got 11. Games versus top 4 2025 is 6. Games versus outside top 8 teams is 13. And games versus bottom 4 teams is 5. Pretty good. Pretty good for a Cowboys outfit who need to travel a lot of their games. Some of the pros of their strength of the schedule. So they got 2 buys in the Origin period. 1 game versus South, which is huge for a club that sends players to Origin. Again, they've got guys. I'll quickly go up here. Murray Taulagi, probably. Dearden, definitely. Nanai, definitely. Lukey, Smokey. So potentially 4 guys off the top of my head. On obviously Cotter, 5. Potentially 5 guys for Origin. So if they can get those buys around that time, / versing teams who are also decimated, for example, South Sydney could be one, or Melbourne Storm could be one. Guys like that, if you verse them, huge. So they run home. They got 7 of their last 8 games in Queensland against the Cowboys. So Broncos, Titans, Raiders, Tigers, all those types of games, they should be able to be competitive against, especially at North Queensland. And they've also got a round 25 bye. Perfect to freshen up just before the finals. It'll be a really good indicator if they need to rest guys for the last round or 2, if they're ahead of schedule in regards to where they are on the ladder, or they have to go, oh, hey guys, we've got 2 rounds left, full hog. You're playing extended minutes. Let's go, lock in. It'll be interesting. I want to hear from you guys. But yeah, cons. So brutal start travel-wise. Only 2 home games in the first 6 weeks. That is rough. Very similar to the Titans in that regard. But yeah, 2 home games in 6 weeks. We obviously mentioned about travel, and depending where those games are situated, yeah, not too good for them. Very, very scary. Again, North Queensland, could be going to Melbourne, New Zealand. Yeah, don't like the logistics regarding that. And open in Las Vegas. So big trip. It's a weird week. Okay, it's a weird week. And you don't want to be starting 0-3 with their confidence, obviously rattling at the worst of times as well. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens for them. Now, probably 2026 narratives. I think the biggest questions, takeaways, things to talk about. Can the spine click? So can that Marnie, Dearden, Drinkwater, Purdue find consistent form? Can their attacking upside get them into the top 8? Going off what I just read, I reckon it could. Like Marnie is like the backup hooker for Queensland, really, when Harry Grant goes down. Tommy Dearden's obviously a Queensland Australian player. Drinkwater is buried under the extreme depth that New South Wales has, but very well could play at Origin and would do definitely a good job there. And Purdue, young gun, coming through the ranks, a full season in the halves to prepare. We'll see. Again, but consistency is key for them. Another thing to ask, can Tom Payton tighten their defense? Again, they're the second worst defense in the league from 2025. Negative, 684, I think I said before. Yeah, they have to be better. They have to be minimum in like the top 10 for defense. I think their attack will do quite well. Their defense obviously has a long way to come. Can they do that for 2026? Another one, obviously the $1 million man, Jason Tamalolo. I mentioned before, I'd rather him not do 25 to 30 minutes straight up or have their second stint to be 25 to 30 minutes. I want short, sharp explosiveness from him. If I'm Todd Payton, I'll be like, Lolo, you're going out there for 15 minutes. I want you to go ham. I want you to be a wrecking ball. I want you to take some people's heads off, metaphorically, because you can't do that anymore. But I want you to set the standard. I want you to bring the energy. I want you to show that we aren't getting messed around in the first 15 minutes of the contest, and then you get a spell. I'd love to see that. What are your thoughts on that idea, guys? Lolo, short, sharp, 15 minutes, come off, have your second stint. Or, alternatively, they put Lolo off the bench and he can be an impact forward. How would you rather? Would you rather him do 15 minutes to start, show that aggro and aggression and that go forward, or would you rather him come off the bench and get a bit more mobility in the pack? You let me know. Best case, their upside scenario, top six, potentially. Okay. However, their defense has been their kryptonite. We need to get them into, again, a top 10 level standard. I think their attack will obviously probably be better next year. Worst case scenario, hey, they came 12th last year or 2025. I can definitely see them aiming in a similar pack. Injuries pending, obviously. But my prediction, do they make the top 8? I'm going to say no. I think they just miss out. I think if I had to give them a band, I think their classic West Tigers 9 to 10th for them. I think they just miss out. I think there's so much quality, there's so much transparency, and teams who are all fighting in a very similar band. And all these reviews can be quite hard to give you a definitive answer in regards to that. But yeah, I think they finished 9th. I think they just miss out. I hope I'm proven wrong. Another Queensland team in the top 8 would be fantastic. Now, we're going back to Cap and Fact from ChatGPT, and it's given me some good ones here. But Cap or Fact, the Cowboys will finish 9th in 2026. Again, missing finals by 1 win. My prediction was 9th and 10th, or 9th or 10th. So I say that's fact, 100%. As I just echoed before, I think their defense has a long way to go. Can they shave literally 150 points off their against? That's a lot. Okay, that's a lot, guys. Can they do that? Their origin starts having to back up. They're another year older. Can Lolo stay healthy? Can the Haas combination of Purdue and Dearden work out well? Can Marnie adjust to the new system? So many variables. That's why I'm saying no. Second one, Cap or Fact, Reid Marnie will be a net upgrade on Robson for what this team needs. Net upgrade. I'm going to say no, because obviously I don't want to dismiss what Reece Robson has done for the club and what he is for New South Wales. He's a top level, A quality hooker. They're going to miss him a lot. Great in defense, good service, but Reid Marnie gives them something else in regards to a new identity. Okay, and that identity is that pest, that annoyance. He's got that aggression in him. Bit more of a kicking game outside of the dummy half area, which could be good for them. Net upgrade in some aspects, overall downgrade. You probably got him cheaper than Robson, what Robson wanted at the Roosters, which I think was about $750K. Overall, then, net upgrade, when you put that in consideration, I actually say fact. I actually think it is fact. I think Reid Marnie's got a lot to prove this year. I think he got humbled a lot at the Dogs, getting benched. Yeah, I like it. I actually like it a lot. Reid Marnie, starting my Supercoach team this year, mate. Do not let me down at $420K. But yeah, I say that's fact. Reid Marnie be a net upgrade over Robson for what the team needs, not in terms of the player quality. Next one, Cap or Fact, Nanai and Lukey as a pair will combine for 25 tries in 2026. Can Lukey stay healthy? That's the question. Can they score 13 tries each? Yeah, definitely. Definitely could score 13 tries each. Especially with Dearden and Purdue, giving them the pill, and guys like Drinkwater out the back doing that sweep play. Definitely. Their aerial threats, particularly Nanai. Lukey's a devastating runner in his own right as well. Can Lukey stay in the park? That's the question. Can Nanai have a bit of resurgence, show some consistency? That's another question. Do I see them get 25 tries? I'm going to say Cap. I think that's a bit high. I wouldn't be surprised if they get about 20 tries, though. It'd be very interesting. 20 tries for those guys. Lock it in. Next one, Cap or Fact, the Cowboys' softest draw and Queensland heavy run home means they have to play finals or Payton comes under real pressure. In other words, does he get the sack? I'm going to say Cap. I don't see them making the 8. Regardless of the draw, regardless of the Queensland heavy run home, I just don't think they're going to make the 8. Is Payton definitely going to be under pressure? Yes. And I think that comes down to what we observe via the eye test, via the rumblings coming out of the media, how their effort is on the field. Do they drop their heads? How does Payton deal with the media? I think those things play a big fact in his pressure to stay at the role. But overall, I do not see that being a fact. That's definitely Cap. And the last one, Cap of fact, Scott Drinkwater is still the right long-term fullback for a serious premiership push. Now, I'm not undermining him at all. Okay, again, Supercoach Gunn could be a New South Wales player if the chips fell his way. Defense, I'm not blaming him at all. Again, negative 684. And he's the fullback. He's the one orchestrating the defense. He's the one communicating. His one-on-one defense overall is pretty good. Is he the right long-term fullback? I'm going to say facts. Reason being, who's pushing him out? Unless you go Drinkwater to 5'8" or halfback, which I don't hate. He plays like one. Jaden Campbell-esque, we could almost say, and put Purdue to fullback. Kind of like that, actually. Purdue to fullback. What do we think? Guys, let me know in the comments. Scott Drinkwater, 2027, or maybe a nuclear change in 2026, but Drinkwater to halfback, Purdue to fullback. I think the explosiveness and running game of Purdue is a little bit more dynamic than Drinkwater. Drinkwater has probably a better management, kicking, passing game than Purdue. I don't know. I like it. I want to know from you guys, though. Drinkwater, if everything hits the fan, Drinkwater to halfback, Purdue to fullback. Let me know in the comments. But guys, that's it. 42 minutes. These mini pods aren't so mini. I'm kind of glad I'm doing it one at a time. Have the Cowboy hat on. I'm paying homage to them. How do you think the Cowboys will go in 2026? That is the main thing. Again, I'm projecting them to get 9th to 10th. A lot of origin stars, combinations, new players coming in, key positions leaving in terms of Robson, and then obviously Marnie coming in. Cowboys are probably one of the most intriguing teams. High ceiling, high floor. Or sorry, low floor. They could go anywhere on this ladder. I want to know from you guys. But that's the review for the Cowboys in 2025 / preview for 2026. I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Let me know how we went. Next up, who we got? We have got... Oh, you have to find out. I don't even know. See you guys. Talk to you later.